Hello, aspirants. Climate change isn't some far-off threat anymore. It's right here, and it's India's current reality. For your GS Paper 3 Environment syllabus, understanding climate adaptation is, well, it's not optional anymore. It's absolutely essential. We're talking about a really high-yield topic for your mains, and frankly, it could be a deciding factor in your interview. So let's break down exactly what you need to know.
Okay, let's just jump right in with a pretty stark number. Globally, India is the 9th most climate-vulnerable country. Think about that. This single data point right at the start of your answer immediately establishes the urgency of the situation.
So, what does this vulnerability actually look like on the ground? Well, it means cyclones, floods, heat waves, you name it. It means 430 major extreme weather events have hit India just between 1995 and 2024. The frequency and the intensity of these events are only increasing, which makes adaptation a constant, urgent need.
And the cost? A truly staggering $170 billion in economic losses. This number right here is exactly why climate adaptation isn't just an environmental issue, it's a core economic and developmental challenge for India. Make sure you remember to make that link in your answers.
So, how are we going to tackle this topic today? First, we'll quickly recap India's climate reality. Then, we'll look at the national policy response. After that, we'll dive into a brilliant case study from Tamil Nadu. Then, we'll analyze the critical finance gap, and finally, we'll wrap up with a solid way forward. Honestly, this structure is a perfect template for a 15-marker in your mains.
All right, now that we've set the scene and we understand the scale of the problem, let's examine the policy response. How is the government of India actually framing its national strategy to tackle these massive challenges?
The heart of this strategy really lies in India's updated nationally determined contributions, or NDCs. These are the climate action pledges each country makes under the Paris Agreement. What's so crucial to see here is just how comprehensive these goals are. They really cover everything from coastal resilience all the way to sustainable livelihoods, and that shows a really holistic approach.
That's absolutely right. If you want to see how this high-level policy actually translates into action, you just have to look at initiatives like ICAR's National Innovations in Climate Resilient Agriculture, or NICRA. This pilot project, running across 448 villages, is a perfect example of applying a national strategy at the grassroots level, focusing specifically on building resilience for our farmers. Now, let's get to what is probably the most useful part for your mains answers: a fantastic case study. India's own economic survey recognizes the Tamil Nadu Climate Resilient Villages program as a model of good practice. You should definitely make a note of this one. You see, the success of this CRV program is all about its holistic, integrated approach. It's not just focusing on one thing. It all starts with community consultation, and then it combines interventions in water, energy, livelihoods, and biodiversity. This multi-sectoral approach across 11 vulnerable districts, that is the key takeaway here.
But, and this is a big but, despite having excellent models like the one in Tamil Nadu, scaling them up across the whole country faces a major hurdle. And that hurdle, as it so often is finance. This is the critical challenge that you have to address in your analysis.
So, the crucial point to grasp is the difference between mitigation finance and adaptation finance. Mitigation is all about cutting emissions, and that's where most of our climate finance framework has focused so far. Adaptation, on the other hand, is about coping with the impacts that are already happening. And that's where the real financing gap is, especially for our most vulnerable sectors, like agriculture and water.
And this visual really illustrates the problem perfectly. Now, while India's adaptation spending is estimated at 5.6% of GDP, which is a respectable figure, the overall budgetary focus is still heavily skewed towards mitigation. This data point is so important for substantiating your argument about the finance gap.
And you know what? This isn't just an Indian problem. The UNP Adaptation Gap Report highlights a massive global shortfall. For India, this really just underscores the urgency of mobilizing our own domestic resources instead of depending solely on international finance.
So, what is the way forward? This is probably the most important part of your answer. You need to provide clear, actionable solutions. And the key phrase to remember here is a whole-of-systems approach.
First, we absolutely have to fix the domestic finance pipeline. This means concrete institutional reforms. Things like systematically tracking adaptation spending in state budgets, mandating climate budgeting, and integrating it directly into the annual planning process. These are the specific administrative reforms you can suggest.
Second, the planning itself must be institutionalized. We need to move away from these one-off, ad hoc measures. This requires regular, data-driven vulnerability assessments that go right down to the block level, constantly updated state action plans, and of course, building capacity within departments to actually execute and monitor these plans.
And finally, and maybe most importantly, is the principle of locally led adaptation, or LLA. This was a huge theme at COP30. The crucial point here is that solutions cannot be top-down. True resilience is only built when communities are actual partners in the entire process, from planning all the way to leadership. This is what we mean by people-centric climate action.
So we'll leave you with this final thought for your own analysis. The challenge for India isn't a lack of intent, or even a lack of successful models. The real question is one of integration. How can India connect its national commitments, its institutional machinery, and its financial pipelines to empower genuine, grassroots action? Answering that question is the key to building a truly climate-resilient future for India. Keep studying, and we'll see you in the next explainer.